Rayman is a series that, in my honest, humble, modest, better-than-yours opinion, keeps getting better as it goes along. If I were to compare it to the experience of an ice bath, it wouldn't make a lot of sense, but it would if you're familiar with Rayman. It starts with the idea. I'm gonna have an ice bath, that sounds great, and you're keen for it. But then you get in, and there's a sharp, chilling shock that you weren't really expecting. That's Rayman 1. It's a side-scroller platformer that is wonderful in theory, and I look back on it fondly, but in practice it's quite unexpectedly brutal and cruel, particularly in the second half. Then, after you get over the initial shock, you've got to adjust to the surprising new conditions you find yourself in this ice bath. It wasn't what you were anticipating, but you're in it now, so you may as well get used to it, and you end up enjoying it. That's Rayman 2 and 3. They defy the precedent set by Rayman 1, and instead do something different, being 3D platformers. It wasn't what you had in mind, but you can't complain, they're great despite that. Then comes the moment of bliss in the ice bath. You're settled in, and you're feeling good. Really good. This is what you imagined right at the beginning of all this. That's Rayman Origins. It abandons the 3D approach, and instead returns to the series' roots as a side-scroller very similar to Rayman 1, but this time without any cruel brutality. It's what you dreamed Rayman would be before you were confronted with the cold reality. But now we come to the end of the ice bath journey. It can go one of two ways. This is Rayman Legends. Will it enhance and build upon the established brilliance, or will it fail to keep me in this state of ecstasy? In other words, will I have finally had enough and want to get out of the ice bath, or will I climax and soak in its glory, and never want to leave the ice bath? If none of that made sense, basically what I'm saying is Rayman Legends the best Rayman game? I probably should have just said that. In all seriousness, I'm very keen for this game after playing Origins, because that game is genuinely brilliant. But it wasn't without faults, one of which I thought was the story. In the beginning of Origins, Rayman and friends were sleep beatboxing, which pissed off the entire land of the living dead, and I thought they were going to be the bad guys. Turns out the story had nothing to do with that, but instead had to do with this random magician guy who was doing something? Rayman Legends follows on from the end of that, sort of. The gang has been sleeping again, during which a bunch of evil monsters have arrived in and threatened peace in the Glade of Dreams, led by what appears to be 5 clones of the random magician guy. Rayman has woken up, and without even thinking about it for a second, heads off to save the day. And with that, we're off with the first level Once Upon a Time. If you don't have the mental capacity to realize on first sight that Rayman Legends is taking the same approach to gameplay as Rayman Origins, please do not have children. The world has no use for your pathetic DNA. Society doesn't need any more of it. This is the same side-scrolling gameplay from Origins, and Rayman picks up pretty much exactly where he left off, with all of his base abilities carried over, as well as all of the upgrades and powers he learnt throughout his adventure in Origins. These abilities, upgrades and powers played a huge role in making the gameplay experience of Origins as phenomenal as it was. They were the proverbial flour, eggs and ham of the proverbial cake. They allowed Origins to be dynamic, interesting and exciting in its gameplay, leading to a lot of memorable and fun levels that I haven't forgotten since I looked over them about 3 minutes ago before writing this line. With all of these capabilities available to Rayman from the off in Rayman Legends, my expectations were sky high, and I was buzzing to see what was in store, either from excitement or because I'm sitting on my electric toothbrush. But more than that, I was curious to see what Legends would do to build upon Origins. Don't get me wrong, Origins was fucking great, but I'm not just looking for more of the same here. I want to see how far this formula can be taken. I want to see it push the limits, blow me away, break the law if you have to, do whatever must be done to take it to the next level. Ironically though, it gets taken to the next level in the first level. Rayman Legends very quickly introduces a new feature of the gameplay. This little green guy whose name I don't know because my copy of the game didn't come with a manual. A quick search on the web reminded me that I've seen this guy before. His name is Murphy, and he appears every so often in other Rayman games as a sort of tutorial frog fairy. How could I forget him? In Legends though, he fulfills a very different role. With the tap of a button, Rayman can command Murphy to interact with the level environment and change its landscape. Murphy can shift platforms around, rotate things, cut ropes, and even give strong enemies a fingering. Murphy is utilised in many different ways across quite a few levels, and it's a genius way of taking the levels to the next level. The first level is also home to some more new additions to the gameplay, such as the bit where your controller disconnects and you have to spend 5 minutes figuring out what the problem is and trying to fix it. That was my favourite bit. There are quite a few more new ideas that Rayman Legends throws into the mix on top of Murphy and controller shenanigans. The first one that comes to mind is the duck, from levels including but not limited to What the Duck. This level, as well as others, sees Rayman transformed into a duck. I don't really know what the ducking point of this is, since Rayman does have very similar moves as a duck. In fact, this is the most limbs Rayman has ever had, but it doesn't really change much besides limiting his movement and speed. This is sort of balanced out by a bigger reliance on Murphy, who instead of trying to turn Rayman back into Rayman, stuffs his face with the proverbial flour, eggs and ham from the proverbial cake. It's a slightly different take on the standard gameplay that doesn't stray too far from the whole point of the game. It doesn't really stray at all actually, and is instead the same thing but slightly worse. But it looks funny, so I'll give it a pass. The levels in Rayman Legends can also be subject to invasions. These can be likened to time trials from other platformers including Rayman Origins, where the goal is to beat the level as fast as possible. But this is done very differently in Rayman Legends, where the invaded version of a level is completely different to the original version of the level. Totally unrecognizable, which I'm actually fine with. It just means more levels, and the invaded levels are actually really fun. Some of them even include Shadow Rayman, who is not a Shadow Minister for Rayman currently in opposition, but instead a dark version of Rayman who follows your every move and kills you if you touch him. He adds an element of strategy to the invaded levels he's in. There are also levels that you need to beat to unlock the ability to control women. Now, most men have this ability naturally, but Rayman has to work for it by completing certain levels. These levels often have some kind of unique gimmick, like slowly descending down a giant treacherous pit, completing dojo training, or running for your fucking life. These are pretty short but fun levels that, when beaten, rescue a woman. I don't know who any of them are, I don't know what relevance they have to anything else that's going on in this game, but you can play as them, so I figured I'd bring it up. But by far my favourite of Rayman Legends gimmick levels is the music levels. These levels are unlocked after you beat a boss, and they combine platforming, one of my favourite kinds of gameplay, and rhythm, my favourite word with no vowels. Rayman needs to complete these platforming challenges while staying ahead of this wall of fire. These challenges sync up with the music perfectly, and it's pretty wicked. Who wouldn't love platforming to the beaten melody of Eye of the Tiger? It's actually really cool. I would play a game filled with levels that are just this. It's a great idea for a game. Such a game probably exists already, but I can't be asked to look for it. All of these different level types on top of all the standard levels makes Rayman Legends a game with a lot of what I like to call focused variety. They expand the base gameplay without completely transforming it into something else. They hit the sweet spot, the bullseye. I literally cannot complain. Something else I can't complain about is the presentation. The presentation style of Legends is very similar to that of Origins, carrying over very similar animations and music. Legends does benefit though from a visual upgrade. I'm not entirely happy with using the word upgrade because Origins has a great look, but I'm just a bigger fan of Legends' art style. It's just more detailed and vibrant from the levels to the characters. It looks crisper and cleaner, and even the lighting has improved, being more dynamic than it was in Origins. Visually, Legends is stunning. But there are other areas where I have to admit that Origins was better in. One such area was the music. In a similar way to how Legends' visual presentation was simply better, the soundscape of Origins is simply better. Of course, it's a very close contest, they both have amazing soundtracks, but I think Origins wins out in the end. It just has a greater quantity of greater songs in it. They're more memorable, they're catchier, they just have a bit more oomph to them. I don't want to undersell Legends' soundtrack because it's brilliant too, but Origins just does it better. This is also true of the story, which is saying something because the story in Origins was dog shit. It made absolutely no sense whatsoever. The game begins with Rayman's crew annoying the shit out of the Land of the Living Dead, who attack, and then they aren't seen again. The antagonist has nothing to do with that, and is instead this magician guy who is up to something that isn't explained anywhere at any point. He comes in out of nowhere at the very end. It makes no sense. The beginning of the game and the ending of the game have absolutely nothing to do with each other. They're two completely unrelated events. It is one of the worst stories I've ever seen in a game. But it's still better than Legends. I don't know what the hell Legends was going for, but whatever it was didn't really work. There was no setup, just that the magician was back and now there's 5 of him. Rayman goes and hunts down all 5, defeats each one in the same way by blasting them into space, directly into the cosmic anus of this pig constellation, where some little devil people use them as musical instruments. And once you defeat the 5th one, it's over. The credits roll. What the fuck? I refused to believe that that was it. There's no way that could be the end. In fact, I knew that because I saw that there was an additional world in the hub that I hadn't gotten to yet. Rayman Legends is a lot less linear than Origins. Progression isn't based on which levels you've beaten, but instead on how many teensies you've rescued. You can actually head to completely new worlds before beating the one you're in, as long as you've got enough teensies rescued. It gives you a bit of freedom, which is cool. But when I saw there was a world I hadn't been to yet, I thought, okay, that must be where the game's true ending is. They wouldn't end the game with a pathetic ending like that. There's a real one in there, with some new levels to beat as well. That's not what's in there. I collected enough teensies to go in, only to find it was filled with all the music levels in 8-bit versions. But it's not just the music that gets remixed. These versions of the music levels also have their own 8-bit themed graphic filters, which are disgusting. They look awful. I don't know whose idea it was to take the brilliance of the music levels and make them borderline unplayable, but I think that person should be disemboweled. Look at this, it's absolutely horrific. Which pixel is Rayman? How are you supposed to be able to tell what's going on when you can't fucking see anything? The music levels that were exclusive to this world, Granny's World Tour and its 8-bit version, were great, even if the 8-bit version combined every mistake all the other 8-bit versions made into one, but that's all that was here in this final world. No true ending, no real payoff, nothing. The story actually ended with the magicians on the Devil Moon. It's somehow a shittier story than that of Origins, which I didn't think was possible. Admittedly, I was livid. That's such a shitty way to send off an otherwise outstanding game. But it was after I beat the final level in that world where I realized just how massive this game is. Exploring the hub area really makes it clear just how much content Legends has to offer. One of the first things I saw was Kung Foot, which is supposed to be a multiplayer soccer sort of deal, but because you need a friend to play it with, that's not gonna happen. But there is so much stuff in this game on top of its wide range of levels. One thing you can unlock throughout your playthrough are these lucky tickets. Earn enough lums in a level and you can get your hands on one. They're basically scratchies from which you can earn various prizes. You can earn teensies and lums, useful for unlocking levels and costumes respectively. You can win creatures. I don't really know what the point of this is, but it's there, so I figured I should mention it. But the big one you can win is paintings. These paintings don't unlock concept art or anything like that. That would be cool, but what they do unlock is far, far better. These paintings grant you access to Back to Origins levels, which are exactly what they sound like. They take you back to Origins, and let you play a lot of levels from Rayman Origins. This genuinely blew me away. I've never seen a game be bold enough to include a fair chunk of the levels from its predecessor for almost no reason, but I was absolutely delighted to revisit them. And I'm not kidding when I say that Back to Origins changed my verdict on this game all on its own. Honestly, before I fucked around in Back to Origins, I had Origins and Legends pretty even. They were neck and neck. I thought they were just as fantastic as each other. They both have amazing gameplay and levels, pretty shit stories, and brilliant presentation. The presentation had different strengths in each, with Origins winning on music and Legends winning on visuals, but both music and visuals were great in both games. But Back to Origins changed everything. It single-handedly makes Legends the winner by default, because think about it, Origins has great levels and brilliant music, while Legends has great levels and brilliant visuals. Back to Origins transfers Origins' great levels with its brilliant music directly into Legends, who improves it with its brilliant visuals that are, in my opinion, better than those of Origins. Rayman Legends provides the best of both worlds because it has both worlds in it. The only thing Origins has over Legends is that the story is marginally better simply because it exists. But the story was the worst part of Origins, so are you really missing out if it's not there? Rayman Legends really has reached Legend status. In its own right, it's a fantastic game. Its levels are dynamic and diverse, while sticking to the core Rayman gameplay that is exceptionally fun. There are loads of them, and they're all an absolute blast. You never know what you might see, but you can be sure that it'll be amazing. There's heaps to do in this game, and not a single second of it is boring. The game's presentation is gorgeous too. This was all true of Origins as well, but the simple fact that 40 of Origins levels are in Legends at all means that Legends is automatically the better of the two. And I previously believed that Origins was better than Rayman's 1, 2, and 3. So Legends beating Origins says it all. I am formally going on record to say that Rayman Legends is the best Rayman game. It was nearly impossible to find any faults with it. Besides the terrible story, and a brief moment of what I can only describe as eye cancer, Rayman Legends does not take a wrong step. It's fucking awesome. I'm staying in the ice bath. Forever.